It's a common question that kind of goes into a lot of different verticals. A lot of times people use it for interviews at tech jobs and stuff. Where what happens when you type a URL into your browser? Like what happens when you go to a website? And it's actually a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Modern web browsers and things, they hide a lot of the stuff. They don't make it even look like there's anything going on other than, oh, can't go to the website because it's down or something. It's usually what your response is, oh, website's down, so can't go to it. And I'll post this real quick. But there's actually a lot that goes on. And this one Amazon blog is the one that I'll start with. And I did a bunch of research to figure out, what I want to talk about in this too. So it's not just completely, it's not an unprepared stream. It's just an unscheduled one because I didn't know when I was going to do it. So actually a lot of stuff goes on. So for one, look up the location of the server. So if you're not sure what happens when you type something in, for example, hex.com, when you type that in, that this actually maps to an IP address. And if we go to, let's see, I don't have one off the top of my head, but if I go to domain to IP address, there's all kinds of online stuff to do this. I can do the console tools too, but it's just easier to show you here. So I'll just type in hex.com. Oh yeah. Converter is an interesting word. It should be resolver. So what it's doing is it's asking the domain server, hey, who owns hex.com? There's all these domain servers, all these DNS servers you're probably familiar with that know the different. It gets really complex with cache and stuff like that. But essentially, your browser is like, hey, Google 8888.8.8.8 or some other domain server, your ISP's domain server. Where is hex.com? What IP address does that map to? Where can I go? So I'm going to simplify a lot of stuff, but essentially, it resolves this name resolves to this IP address. And that's what you're at the network layer that, there is no DNS. That's the application layer. So at the network layer, and I don't want to go into the seven different layers of stuff, but essentially when your computers talk to each other, they're routed over the internet and they have IP addresses. And this is the public IP address for hex.com. Now there could be a private IP address as well. So if it uses Amazon EC2, and cloud providing, it may have an internal network and stuff like that. But essentially, this is how your computer, your browser is saying, okay, I have an IP address. I'm on the internet. Internet is just a network. It's just like the biggest network, the public network. It's just just like your LAN, your local area network at home, where you have all your local devices and stuff. When you have your local router, which knows everything, and there's a whole different translation between your local router and LAN addresses to the internet. That's a different layer too. But the internet is just one big network, and with a bunch of complicated routing stuff going on. So 18.146, this is what it currently points to. Now it could point to different addresses. Since internet stuff has gotten more complex in the last decade or two, if we did this again, it could resolve to a different one because maybe there's, a whole bunch of scalability stuff going on, and things like that. I don't want to get into reverse proxies and all that stuff, but essentially this is how your browser knows what to talk to. So when once in hex. Yes, this is also AMA. So if you type questions in, I'll get your questions as well. Cause I keep everything AMA, but essentially we're going to go down this rabbit hole of, what happens when you type it in. So look up the location, hosting the website. We got the IP address. It uses the IP address to make the connection to the actual server. It sends a request to get the specific page. So if you go to, if you're going like hex.com, well, I guess a better example is go.hex.com/ we might look that up too, because that would be interesting to see the DApp stuff going on, or /stake or yeah, it is stake, isn't it? I don't want to go to it too early, but yeah, I forgot what it was. So the different stuff, it'll make that request. So let's just open another tab so I can go to hex.com here in a minute. And then handle the response. So the server is like, okay, I've got hex.com, or I've got go.hex.com/stake, or you do, let's see, go.hex.com/ not a page or not a not something that it has, it redirects. So different servers act differently. So this one redirects back to hex.com. Some of them may traditionally you would get a 404 error, not found. Let's see what hex.com does. Not a thing. Yeah, so here you go. 404 not found. So this is interesting too. If you were fingerprinting this and trying to figure out what's going on, to me, this looks like a key does not exist. Looks like an AWS thing. It looks like an EC2 or it looks like an S3 bucket or instance or something. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I did a little bit of research, so I kind of know a couple things ahead of time. But it looks like hex.com, from what I can tell, is listed on some kind of AWS services, and it could just be an S3 bucket, a static S3 bucket, which is a very secure way of doing it. I wouldn't surprise me if Richard thought of that, because that means that it's much more secure than just a dynamically a server that you're able to update the pages and stuff. Makes it much less likely to get hacked, assuming you keep your keys safe and all that stuff. So it would not surprise me if it was just an S3 content. Content S3, AWS is S3 service host. And S3 is like go look at my cloud. I'll type it in here. I got the cloud stuff, so I'll just briefly touch on it. Yeah, cloud security. So S3. So there you go. Let's have a very good reason. Static web content, which could be hex.com or something of that nature. It's got a bunch of things about S3 security. Anyways, going back, let's go. So you get the response from the server, and then the browser actually renders the page. So the server sends back, here's all the HTML, here's all the JavaScript, here's all the web code of whatever sort your browser knows how to read and then display to you. And that's how you interact with the website. So in the background, a lot of stuff's going on. So the websites, DNS we talked about. Yeah, this breaks it down. You type this in. There's different parts of the scheme itself. Like within the browser, there's HTTP, there's HTTPS, there's FTP, may be still around. And there's, 3 different parts. So you got the scheme of the domain or the subdomain. And then you have the path, which is the request, what we're actually requesting. And that could contain other arguments or other variables and other stuff too, and GET requests. And then there's post requests. I don't want to get too much into HTTP protocol, but the resource. So browser looks up the domain, initiates the connection. This is looking at a trace route to see, where you are from that host you're trying to communicate to, how far away you are. Usually the closer you are, the faster your connection. Response time is going to be all that stuff. That's like a networking layer. I'm trying to touch on the interesting parts, but not go too deep in certain areas before I don't lose you on that. Anyways, I wanted to, let's see what I got on the list. So that reference, also certificates is another thing. So for example, you can look here. If you ever see a broken red lock, that don't go to that page, especially don't connect your wallet to that page, because that could be, an attempt to go to a fake website, which may scam you and all this stuff. So if you either see green or you see nothing, that's a tracking thing. This is Firefox, and Chrome may be slightly different, but verified, connection secure. More information. So we're basically looking at the certificate information for this website. Tells you all the ciphers and stuff. Where's this? Oh, view certificate. There we go. So now we can view the certificate. We can see the Amazon issued the certificate. So it looks even more likely that this is, hosted on Amazon services, Amazon cloud services, such as EC2, such as S3. EC2 is for spin up it's general compute. So you can spin up a web server, you can spin up an email server, whatever. You can also use S3, which I talked about a minute ago, and you can just create a bucket, and that bucket is public, and it points to a domain. And now you serve static web content from there, or maybe that web content also interacts with other resources, but essentially 2 different ways to host a website through Amazon that are most common. This certificate is for hex.com, or looks like it's anything at hex.com as well. The asterisk there. And nothing super interesting in this. You could just tell a little bit about how the website works and who issued it, and we can talk all about domain, like there's root domains, there's intermediate domains, all that stuff in the chain of trust with certificate authorities and centralized authorities, basically, in a lot of ways. So that's hex.com certificate. Let me go back to, we'll get into before I get into debug console, I'll do this port scan thing too, because I think that's interesting. So all these are dev tools that anyone can use and mostly developers may use and things like that. But we'll just do hex.com. It's going to resolve that to an IP address. Usually you're going to want to use IP address. I mean, I don't know. We could use this IP address too. Why not? IP addresses are not private stuff, by the way. I mean, for servers, obviously anyone on the internet can go look at IP address like this. So we're going to look for server ports. And again, usually when I'm doing this stuff, I'm usually doing it in the console, or I'm writing a script or something when I'm wanting to check this stuff. But it's easier to show it all through a web browser. And this is just people who have implemented this on the front end, and on the back end, there's actually scripts pulling this stuff down, or libraries doing it and stuff too. So I'm just going to run a port scan online here. That's just going to go through and just confirm what you should probably already assume. HTTP runs on 80. HTTPS runs on 443. Now, port 80 may be open just to redirect it, because everything, they probably want everything to be SSL. But to identify a web server, if you see 80 or 443, you know that those things should be open on hex.com. So web browsers can talk to them and do stuff like that. Also look at domain history real quick, because I thought that was something fun. So if we type in hex.com and this one, also see what other domains in history have, or what other subdomains in history have been a thing. So apparently at some point test.hex.com was a thing. If you would imagine early days of Hex, Richard testing these things, or his devs, setting this stuff up off the hex.com. Some of these you try to go to them now and they don't work because, like I said, maybe they're old ones. Let's see. Yeah, off the hex.com doesn't work. API to hex.com works. So that could be API access for, not found. So it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It doesn't mean it's not functional. It just means it doesn't know what we tried to get this path, which is the default, / index path basically, and nothing's there, but maybe there's other ways to interact with API. So that's, but we know that, that's still a server, but off at hex.com isn't. Go to hex.com. We know that one still works. Data blast update. You can see the history. So this is just kind of give you a view of the different subdomains that hex.com has. Again, all this public information, devs know all about it. Nothing secret or magic. It's just knowing what to look for and how to look for it. Jerry, it's funny. What if you get a 304? Actually, good question, Jerry. You're contributing. A 304 response code for HTTP means not modified. Not modified client redirection. Means there is no need to transmit the requested sources. So I don't know if you were joking or if that's actually something you've seen before. It's not very common though. It's not a very common one. So the common ones are like 404, that's cannot find a resource, not found, what we just saw on the API one. There's also 500, which means the server had an error of some sort. The server, maybe there's some backend bug that it just can't process it connection anymore. A lot of times if something gets hacked or exchange goes down or whatever, you get 500, you may get 501, 500 level responses, we call them. So it could be 501, 502. They map to slightly different things. 401, another common one, unauthorized, which means, you need to authenticate, or based on whatever criteria that the server requires you to username and password, or come from a specific IP address or whatever it is, they put some kind of security restrictions in place that is going to not let you in. So 403, similar in a way that you're also forbidden for some resource. So that's maybe an ACL, usually an ACL thing. It's kind of fluid. I mean, it could be implemented a lot of different ways, but essentially means you don't have access for some reason to that resource. And then the one that everyone gets every time they go to a website successfully is a 200. 200 is just, okay, content's good, we're good. We're going to the website. So let's go to hex.com, but let's pull up the, let's see, the dev tools, browser tools. Yeah, web dev tools. So it's super easy. And Chrome has the same thing, Chrome dev tools, Firefox dev tools. And this is just going to tell us a lot of information when we go to a page. So on the network side, go to hex.com. We see the status, the response code 200 from the server. Cool. It's a GET request, which means there's GET request, post request. GET is just give me a resource. Post is I'm pushing data to the server, and the server is going to parse it. That's probably all you need to know about that particular one. What's cool about dev resources is we can look at all the files that are hosted on the server. So NASCAR, we can see that, that's a picture somewhere on the website. So it's coming up here. What is RT? Yeah, that's Reddit's logo and all that stuff. So you can get a look at all the resources, how big the resources are. If you want to download them yourself, like maybe you can use this as a trick to download stuff off a website when you don't even help you find stuff on a website to download that you wouldn't have noticed before. Maybe, the Woodmark logo. I'm not sure what Woodmark means. Some sort of logo, maybe. The file type, so SVG, PNG, JPEG, WebP. It's usually a video, or it could just be an interactive image or something. Again, some of it's cached. So cached just means it's available maybe on different servers or your browser, seen it before, so it's not going to download it again, things like that. The videos, so you can actually download videos off the hex.com website because they're hosted. Here you can see hex.com/assets. So yeah, let's copy value and copy URL. So I'm just going to copy one of them. I want to bring DevTools up on the go.hex.com. That's something I haven't did before. I think it's interesting. So yeah, you can download a video here, whatever. You can see that it's hosted in a folder called /assets. I guarantee if you go there, it's not going to do anything. It'll probably redirect you, or not found. So it doesn't allow directory relisting. Maybe another reason it's showing that. So some security stuff to make sure directory listings could have sensitive data or whatever. So a lot of times they're turned off. That's another reason. There's also a console debugger. And I was looking at this yesterday, and it looks like there's some kind of scam. So usually this is not here. This is like, I'm pretty sure this is like custom. The devs on the Hex website was like, people keep getting scammed because there's some tutorial that's like, oh, go to your console, go to your DevTools and console and type this in. And it'll, maybe it'll connect you to another website or get you scammed in some way. So I like how they did this. This is cool. They're like, you know what? We're going to put this in the code in the website and put a message in here to help people from getting scammed. If anyone ever tries to tell you, go to hex.com, type the stuff in the console, because you can interact with JavaScript and the code, in the console. So, but actually, in case you actually want to know what you're doing, visit hex.com/dev. Yeah, very cool. Very cool Hex devs. There's a MetaMask thing here that talks about deprecated stuff. So essentially, you can get a view of any errors that are going on the website, any warnings, you're able to interact with the code itself through the console, stuff like that. I'm not going to interact with it right now. I don't have any good examples off the top of my head anyways, but same origin policy is pretty core to the web, the modern web too. They got debugger, style editor. So yeah, you can look at the different code that's on the hex.com website. Let's see, performance, memory, storage. You can look at any cookies. So there's nothing cookies here, but local storage has a couple things. It looks like it has something to do with the swap right here. So it's just how a website is interacting with your browser. It's just an interesting way of looking at it. So a lot of people probably never opened up the DevTools, right? Like you can do a lot of stuff opening up DevTools. And then what was interesting too? Let's see, I'll open up DevTools on the hex.com/stake because I think this could be, I'm gonna reload the page. Go to hex.com. What was it? I think I saw, oh, ETHEX, yeah. So ETHEX here, it's looting stuff from ETHEX. So if you go to ETHEX, so this also tells you what kind of domains stuff could be loaded from or making connections to when you go to the website. So I was wondering, I was like, oh, it's talking to ETHEX because ETHEX is holding some kind of data here. And if we go to ETHEX.com, I think it just goes to the Uniswap front end to like host, like, hey, you can swap between hex here, and it's integrated on the website. Looks like there too. So let's see, what else am I going to show? So that we talked about certificates. Let me know if y'all have any questions about like computers and networking and like anything to do with, I can show you through here. I'm just going to click around a little bit. I don't know how, like what to get into with on this. And this is like the headers on the different requests and stuff. It's just good to, if you ever want to poke around with websites and like figure out like what's going on, like a dev would, this is just good stuff to know.